project for the family. I'm here today in lovely Nottingham, England with Coach Lawrie Dudfield. Coach Lawrie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just give you a little bit of background about Coach Lawrie and some of his amazing accomplishments before we get started. So Coach Lawrie Dudfield is the founder and CEO of ICONZ Experience. He is executive director of Brookhouse Academy in Florida and former professional EPL and EFL footballer with Leicester City, where he was signed at the age of 17.
Yep.
And also Hull City, respectively. Throughout his professional career, he amassed over 350 appearances, scoring over 80 goals. Coach Lawrie then became an international player agent and coach for the prestigious Brookhouse College Soccer Academy located in Market Harborough, England. He currently oversees international soccer operations, helping players to secure professional club playing contracts as well as soccer scholarships to American colleges. Lawrie is also a FIFA match agent, one of only 7 in the entire U.S., right?
Yep.
That's amazing. In 2015, Coach Lawrie launched ICONZ Experience, focusing on English Premier League soccer clinics abroad and UK soccer tours, as well as ICONZ Elite FC based in Florida. Once again, Coach Lawrie, thanks so much for joining us today and taking the time out. So just to give you a little bit of background, my daughter London, which we talk about a lot on the pod, is here playing with ICONZ. Wonderful experience with Coach Lawrie and ICONZ, obviously. And so it's a big deal for him to carve out time for us today because there are no less, 15, 20 girls roaming around the hotel here as we speak. But once again, it's been an amazing experience. So we're just always so happy for the opportunity. So jumping right in, Coach Lawrie, just with your experiences as a pro footballer, tell us a little bit about like what you love the most when you play professionally.
I think honestly, what I loved the most about playing football was, even professionally, it was the same for me at 14 and 12 as it was for me making my Premier League debut, which obviously a bit more nerve-wracking, you know.
Right.
But I think that was what helped me to get where I needed to get to. It was always the love of the sport first. I was the biggest football fan or biggest soccer fan, going. I'm the kid that would write, I think, 200 letters. I've got hundreds of letters. My mum gave me a bag of, let's call it trash now. Okay, it's not trash, it's prized possessions to me.
Of course.
About 4 years ago, my mum said, "Here's a bag that I've had about 20 years. You need to take it finally." And I was like, "Okay, what is it?" Thinking. Anyway, I went into it, and it was all these. I literally had about 200 letters that I'd written to professional players,
wow.
And it was on the floor. I was like a little kid. I lost 4 hours of my life just going through them, seeing which players I'd written to. I asked them for a signed photo. I always asked them questions because I wanted to get into the mindset of a footballer. Stupid things from what their best goal was to who their roommate was for away games. Nothing that had bearing to. I just wanted to soak it up. So that was me. So I treated, even when I made my Premier League debut against Everton in 2000, that was the little kid in me, and for me, it's the same with these tours, for me, it's what we're doing tomorrow, we're going to Manchester United, what we're doing today, doing this, and it's still that inner love for a sport that has given me so much, but it's always been about the sport first, and the rest, always comes afterwards.
Right. So the love of the game, and we can really, and the girls really can really see that in you because your enthusiasm, the way that you connect with them, the way that you talk to them about the game, it also really, really shines through. So like you said, love of the sport first, and that, would you say, is what drove you to kind of just always want to be better, just always a ball at your feet, always doing things, just because you love the sport so much, and then consequently realized you had talent, and that's what sort of propelled you forward, would you say?
Kind of, yeah. My story was not a traditional story of being the best player. I feel part of the problem in America now is I feel that we are pigeonholing players that are the best players at 11 years old. Hey, that's the best player. They're going to be a professional. Well, if that was the case, I would have been nowhere near. I was, to put it into context, 10, 11, 12, 13, I was sub for my team. My team won everything in Division 1, as it was then, back in the day. Regionally, I would get probably 20 minutes a game.
Wow.
And I was sub goalkeeper, sub right back, sub left back, and I had to make a big decision at about 13 to 14 of, I'm going to drop down, play with some of my school friends, play for another team, which was a Division 2 team. And I changed position, just started having fun, and it was the best decision I ever made. And I know that's not going to be for everybody, and certainly not in America. It's it's very much we have to be playing at this level, but my kind of belief is that as long as you've got to enjoy it first and foremost. If you're playing high but not enjoying it, I might never have had the opportunities that I did.
Right.
So my journey was very much drop down, and then over a 2-year period of everything changed for me, and I was very fortunate that I then got picked up at 15 by a semi-professional club, and at 16 I was at the time I think the youngest person to play in the conference professionally. So it was like a huge. I went from absolutely being miles off to over this 2.5 year period to having a real opportunity, and it became just exposure to always being at the bottom of the ladder, always having something to aim for, and thinking, wow, that's the level, I've got to get there.
Right.
And I try to put that into everything we do.
Yeah.
To make people understand that it's okay to lose games, because we're in an environment where, again, in the States, and I'm pro, I love America, so I wanted to make it sound, hey, this is what we do in England. I don't want to be that person. But I do think it's really important to lose games and understand that when you lose them, that's how we get better. Like, what is their centre midfielder doing that I'm not as a centre midfielder, and so on and so on. So so they're all learning moments for me.
Right. Yeah. And we hear you say that a lot. Like, if the girls like even on this trip, like the goal, like this is a true soccer tour. Like, we're doing soccer primarily, which is what we wanted, right? Because we wanted the exposure to what soccer is like in England, right, in the UK, and also we wanted high levels of competition. And you're always great about making sure, even in the tournaments that ICONZ is in, that they're playing at the highest level possible. We've heard you say before, it's okay to lose games. The goal is, what did we learn? Sometimes even games that you're slotted to win, that you expect to win, it's okay to lose sometimes, because then it's like I said, what did we learn from that? What can we get better at? So I think that that's a really important point. And also, to your point about dropping down, so the development piece, you feel like, is what was important then, right?
It was really, I wasn't mature enough as a player or a person. I'm a boy. We don't mature till a lot later. My wife would say I'm still not matured. It's really important that people do, we pigeonhole everybody in the same position. Here's the level, where do you stack up now? That's it, they're the best player, and for me, I needed extra time. I was, I say a late bloomer. I was 13, so I'm not late, but in many respects, there was, I'll never forget the player, the main man, his name was Calvin Renix, scored 49 goals a season. Everybody would have said, hey, he's going to go pro, and he didn't, he didn't get, I don't even know if he went to a professional team. Equally, I still think that there will be people that know me from school that will say, I can't believe he made it as a professional footballer. And they're absolutely right. They were all, a number of them were better players than me. They just didn't want it more. And that was my area of excel, because I loved it so much. I can honestly say my first paycheck in professional soccer was £40 a week. Wow. And I was happy on £40 a week as I was on my Premier League debut. And that's no word of a lie. It just wasn't about money. Right. It wasn't, now I do, without lecturing, I do believe that a lot of people love the thought of being a footballer, and then somewhere down the line, being a footballer and doing what it takes to be a footballer fits in there. Do you know what I mean? That was always top of the tree for me.
Right. Well, that's really inspirational, because it kind of goes back to what we're trying to do with the pod too. Our story. Mississippi. Fortunately, we were, we found ICONZ, which helped a lot in terms of that development piece, and London, getting to play with girls that had a high skill level, different environment, getting to know you and sort of your coaching style, and giving her, and obviously even now, we're a long way from where we want to go, but just hearing your voice and the voice of the coaches that work with you was important. But with the pod, we're trying to reach people sort of with a story kind of like ours, who are kind of stuck, maybe landlocked someplace where they feel like, wow, I really, really love the sport, but I don't know where to go from here. Like, I don't know what is important. Should I be trying to play on the best team? If I sit the bench, is that okay? Should I be dropping down? Should I be focusing on development? You know what I mean? Yeah. So to hear you say that, I think is going to be inspirational to a lot of families and a lot of girls out there, because it really is about the love of the game and focusing on that piece, and also just the development piece, and then seeing what follows, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. My son plays football. I think everybody thinks, hey, you were a footballer, so is your son going to be a footballer? You know, the answer is yes, he would love to be. Okay, has he got a lot of work to do? Of course he has, same as everybody. You know, there's nothing's given, is it? Nothing's given for free. And if he wants to do it, he'll go and do it, but it'll be him that does it. You know, I always say the same thing. I'll take you out every night to go and kick a ball, but I need you to ask me. You know, I can't do it for you. And I think that, you know, we do fall foul of, in all over the world, of it's a dream job, isn't it? We all want a piece of it, and we sometimes push our child to go and do that, but it doesn't work if it's not working on both sides, for me and my belief. So yeah, so I think the development is really, really important. I also think it's, a lot of clubs will tell you that, hey, we're development clubs, but proof's in the pudding. You know, it's hard to, you know, the fact is it's hard to be a development club in a pay-to-play model, because it's just nigh on impossible, because, you know, we're all want to develop players, but equally a lot of people change teams to go to the more successful team and can pay their way to the successful team, and that makes it a really hard development process, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, well, I mean, those are great pearls, and thanks so much for sharing your story. So let's talk about, since we're talking about sort of the U.S. versus sort of England, for example, if there is a kid out there who has this dream of playing for an academy in England, right?
Yep.
Or in the UK, or even professionally. Like, I know it's not like in the US where you can just, like you said, you can pay, you can try out, you can pay, you can join this team. Tell us a little bit about what the model is like in England specifically. Or
You mean as a player trying to come over, or just in general?
Just as a player trying to come over. You know, I know that there are some sort of rules, or
there's a lot of immigration rules at the minute.
So I think that's important for people to know, because I think sometimes they just know, oh, you know, I'm gonna work hard, and then I'm gonna go, you know, try out for Chelsea Academy. I think they kind of need to understand sort of how it works over here.
Yeah, well, I think there's two things. Firstly is the immigration aspect of it, and second of all is a lot of people. You know, it's the same as like, and this is not putting anyone down. I'm sure they're great products, but quite often Barcelona, Real Madrid, Chelsea, whoever it may be, when we're doing camps, quite often they're run by foundations. Still got great coaches and things like that, but it's not, we get sold by the badge. So, and quite a lot of times it's not really the club, you know, it's the foundation running it. So we kind of get bamboozled by, well, I've been told by Chelsea coaches that I'm going to go to Chelsea on trial and that. Well, it's not, you know, you can't do that. I obviously, as you mentioned at the start, very fortunate to work as a consultant for Brookhouse, and so I get to see the international players that come over from Nigeria in particular and don't have a passport, and what they have to go through. You know, there's lots of different rules, including two to 3 weeks at a time on trial. I think it's 4 weeks per year at a specific club, and they can't, you know, so now even more so than ever that, you know, with Man City and Chelsea have previously been fined and penalised and so on for bringing players in the wrong way. So there's a lot of eyes on the youth market at the minute. But for a player trying to come over, the entry point, unless they have a passport or a right to remain in Europe and the UK in particular, it is really entering into other parts of Europe. So, you know, there's many places that American players can go. So US players can go to, obviously, your Germany's, Sweden's, Finland, places like that, where they can stay for 2 years, almost naturalize as such within Europe, and then you have the right to remain once, and then that's when you kind of get bought by your Chelseas, or you get bought by your Liverpools, Leicesters, Villas, that kind of thing. So it is a very difficult process. I would say that I work with a number of agents, got friends all over some of the top agencies in the world, and I've asked this question to 4 of the top agencies in the world, and each 4 have a different answer. And that is because every single player and instance is different to another. So there might be there's always loopholes for specific players, so they try to, but if not, it has to be the European model first. So it is quite a complex system for US players to get over into Europe, but it is possible. It's just, unless you have a UK passport, it's pretty impossible to come direct to to the UK without international points and being an international player, of course.
Okay, well that's really great experience, great getting information. And I think it's also the point that you made about sort of the camps, like the Barca camps, the other camps being run by the foundation. It's important for kids to kind of understand the difference. It also highlights the importance of things like you do with bringing kids over actually to the UK to actually play against the academy teams. Like we've had so far an amazing experience playing against, Chelsea, Leicester, Everton, Aston Villa. Amazing for the girls to see the facilities, to be in the environment. It's just electric, and it just feels so different because it's almost like an immersion in football, which is exactly, I think, was the goal.
Yeah.
But it just kind of lights a spark. And also, you can see sort of differences in the level of play, differences in the style of play, and let kids get a real taste of what it's like to play at that level, as opposed to doing something like the summer camps that sometimes you can like pay to just kind of go to, and like you said, you see the badge, you're like, oh, I'm going to the this camp or that camp, and it's very, very different.
Yeah, and before I get sued by Barca and Real Madrid,
No.
I should say I'm not against them.
Right,
There's some really fantastic coaches on them, and some of them do it properly. Barcelona, when they do their franchises, a lot of the coaches obviously do come from the main part, so their example is probably a bad one. But my point is, a lot of parents, we're in an environment, especially in the States, where we get given that letter and it's like, hey, you've been on our camp, congratulations, you've been selected to come to Barcelona, here's a lovely letter with our logo on, and it's only going to cost you $5,000. And we're in, we think, wow, that's amazing. Well, we've been selected by Barcelona, of course we're going to pay
Right.
And I don't always know that there's the tangible outcomes at the end. If I'm investing $5,000 personally, nobody can guarantee anything, but I want to know that it's real, it's authentic, that where does this lead to? What does it open up? Is there the possibility of this, or this?
Right.
So I don't know, I'm a bit skeptical at times, because the sport has become so commercialized. And if I'm truthfully honest, I retired early at 30 years old. When my debut at 16, I retired at 30 because it became so commercialized, and I'm fully aware of the irony of I'm now in the soccer business. I'm fully aware of that. But everything that I try to do, and I get lots wrong. I don't want to come in here and say, "Oh, I'm amazing. Come and see it." I'm on the sideline last night. I get loads wrong. But what I do try to do, and what I believe, my belief on soccer is that it's all authentic. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'm gonna, if it's bad, and I'm gonna tell you that, hey, this is what this is. I wouldn't do this. It's not as good as this. Blah blah. Or go here, it's brilliant, there's a pathway to the first team. We're always going to be honest and authentic about it. And I think that's what having the commercialization at times is difficult, because we kind of get further and further away from that at times.
Right. Yeah. But I think that the parents in this organization who know you, the girls all see that in you, and I think that's one of the reasons why the girls respond to you so great. Like, it's so fun to see you with them, because you guys have a rapport, and you do level with them. You'll tell them, you give them direction, which they take wholeheartedly. They internalize that. Also, just when you talk about the games, what was good, what was not so great, I think it's easy to hear from you because they feel and sense that level of authenticity in you. Like that love really shines through. From your past when you were a player, but also in what you're doing now with, actively, honestly, trying to, I think, further the sport, trying to do things the right way, trying to get kids the right exposure, the right information, the right experiences, so that they can also fall in love with the sport, but also, if not, then make a well-informed decision in terms of what they really want to do as far as soccer. So I think there's a lot of value
I think
in that.
everything I try to do, I always liken it to being sink or swim. I like to drop them in the deep end, not literally, obviously, but drop them in, just anybody watching this. Right. Drop them, because I truly think that, we have many players that come over here, that every coach that brings a tour over to us says, hey, this player, and this player, unbelievable. And there's always one kid that might start as sub, or might not even be on the radar, might be on the second team, but ends up on this trip. And I love it, because that kid gets a chance to shine. His styles, suits the UK, his style suits the UK better, should I say. And there's always one kid that gets so much out of it. And I love to see that in a player, and I've seen with our girls, I've seen so many of our players that have, one of the players on this tour, I'll never forget, she came into our program and I said, listen, at the minute you don't get into our first team, and you have two options. And as you can imagine, a lot of people go away and say, right, we're not doing this. A couple of people, it takes a stronger person to stay around. And she was in that second team for the '09 girls for about 6 months, and then went to a tournament. And I'm going to go all, sound like the kids now, but she came up to me, she went, bro, who picked these teams? And I went, I did. I said, you've got to earn your way into this first team. It's not happening overnight. Anyway, long story short, after probably a year, she got into the first team. She stuck around with it. And she's now, in the '09 girls, she's one of the first names on the team sheet for every event that we have. But she's earned it. Nothing to do with me.
Right.
She's just found that inner resilience and desire to better herself. She's now playing top level soccer that she wasn't playing before. And she's been brilliant. And for me, that, I love that, because until we throw them into these situations, you don't know who's going to respond, and you don't know, are the best players in the US going to react to not being the best players over here? That's a different challenge that some of our players have faced. So, so lots of instances, but yeah, for me, I'm just, very fortunate to play a very, very small part, and we're really lucky to have a number of good players that come here and want to do better.
I hate to interrupt. I know you're enjoying this conversation, but do me a favor. Be sure to like and subscribe, because it helps us bring you more content just like this. Now, back to the show. No, absolutely. And we, like I said, we've been very fortunate. I mean, London loves it. We love it. We love the environment, what you bring to the game, to the experience. I mean, so every chance that we can play with you, it's like, yeah, Lynn's like, yeah, am I free? Yeah, I want to do it. So thank you again for all that you do.
No,
so
appreciate it.
so let's get a little existential here in terms of the state of the women's game in the U.S., right? Because obviously, when it comes to girls in soccer, parents are hearing a lot more about the the USL, WPSL, Pro 3. You have, even with the NWSL, you have young women who are going pro younger than ever. Like, sort of, what are your thoughts on sort of that landscape and all the changes? Because sometimes it's a little bit hard, I think, for some parents to kind of keep up with. Like, okay,
I mean, my worry for it is, first of all, I should say, we have a USL franchise, so I'm part of the problem. So what I'm going to say, it's great, we love it, we've had a good experience with it, but I feel that at the minute, my concern for the pro game is at the minute that, we always work on that. If we look at England, Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, Conference North and Conference South, and all the way down. So whatever age, ability, or whatever, on a Saturday, at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, there is probably close to 100 different leagues playing, all the way down to a 44-year-old like me with no knee, if I wanted a game on a regular Saturday. So we have that in place. And my worry is that at the minute, pro soccer is heading towards, or potentially heading towards, the same as youth soccer, where we in youth soccer, we don't know. We're bamboozled by acronyms. We've got, amongst the boys and girls, obviously, MLS Next, GA, Elite 64, ECNL, NAL. It's just all across the spectrum, and as opposed to actually having a true kind of pyramid system. So my worry is with the pro stuff at the minute, it's great for USL, selfishly, as we're in it, great that they've got D1 status and all this, but where do you stack up now between Super League and NWSL? Where's the academy system and youth system going to go compared to all the platforms that I've just mentioned? So they're going to fit into that as well and become another. So all of a sudden we have 10 of those, and where truly do the best players go? So I don't know. I mean, I think that's I love America. I love American soccer. Lots to work at, of course, but I do think that that's one thing within Europe that really does help the game, and it truly helps the best players to understand, hey, we're the best players, but if we're not, we're going to drop down to that level, and we could get overtaken on that ladder system. Whereas, it's, as I say, it's much more across the board in the US. So I don't know where it is. I think that the W League, I've enjoyed it. It's a summer league. It's an entry point, shall we say. I like that the Super League have done something, and I hope that it is there to stand the test of time. Obviously, the NWSL is an absolute beast of an organisation, so it's a big challenge. I think ultimately we want all of our female players playing at the highest level possible. So if there's more professional clubs, that is good. It's just, how do we get there? What's the direction? What do we need to do? And I don't think across the board in America for the boys or girls that there is a true, we can say there's a true pathway.
Right.
And that's hard for any parent or coach to understand how we can, affect that without promotion, relegation, etc. So
Right, yeah. And we were having a discussion the other day about that pyramid system, like here in the UK, where with some of the teams that we played, there was sort of a mix of girls because they have no problem sort of pulling girls up. If you're a 16-year-old and they think that you deserve to play on the U18 team, like there's no problem sort of pulling you up, and then they pull other girls up to fill that spot. So it really is more of like a pyramid, right?
yeah,
Versus sometimes in the U.S. there's a little bit of difficulty depending on obviously the team and the club and the coach and lots of variables, and because it is variable, but just sort of in general, there's no sort of consistent sort of approach to say we can remain fluid with this. It's just more like, okay, this is your team, this is your age group, this is, we don't let players play up or, play with boys, for example. Those are some of the things that we came in contact with, which consequently kind of was a blessing in disguise for us, because that's what led us on our journey to find better development, even though we had to leave home. But for some people, for some girls, once again, going back to the mission of Project Further, they do feel stuck because they've been told, no, you can't play up, you can't play with boys, you can't do those things. Versus here, there's like with some of the academies and things like that's a possibility, right? Like they're able to play with boys and play.
Yeah,
with
it's
like that.
it's not even a possibility. It's just how the game's set up here. So for the female game in particular, I had this conversation with somebody back in America last night. We played Leicester, as you know. They weren't as strong as they were a year ago. When I spoke to the coach afterwards, that's our 16s at the minute. So everyone naturally would think, oh, the 16s are maybe not very good, but that's not really what it is. The 16s they've let them fly up to the 21s because a lot of the female teams don't have a U18s in England. They go 16s to 21s. So they want them playing 21s football as soon as possible. And I love that. We keep using the word development. For me, and this is across the schools and programs we've got, I said it to a number of our girls at Brookhouse. If you're still here next year, I'm not doing my job properly. Right. And that's what development is. Right. Our job is to play a very small role in obviously helping players on and off the field, mentally, physically, etc., technically, of course. But development is knowing to pass on. And I think that the problem with pay to play is it doesn't give us the opportunity to pass players on, because you always judge on, hey, we're the best team, we need the best player. Right. Whereas, we're 2009 girls. Okay, well, our best 2009 girls should be, in my opinion, should be playing 2008, 2007, just to expose them to the level. It doesn't have to be every week, but as much as possible. But then you start upsetting things like pay for play minutes, guaranteed game time. There's just so much that it affects. Whereas, so I don't blame coaches. It is what it is, but it is how the industry is set up, and it just limits development to a certain extent. And it means that you are, so then what happens is people do come to look for outside opportunities, like ICONZ and other things, and there's lots out there. But so we're fortunate we get to see those players, but that really is just so that people can get other opportunities outside of their club to, either take the level if some aren't playing toppies, at the minute, or just to get out of their comfort zone and play other events with players they don't know, and I liken it to international soccer. Like you get called up. A lot of people say with ICONZ teams, oh, we could have won that if we were training together. And I was like, we could have, but it's not really what the program is. Right. My program is set up to put people outside of their comfort zone and say, if you get called up for your national team, you're going to see those players for 3 days every 3 months. We're no different. You'll see you once a month and 3 days if we have a tournament. And that's what our program's for, to put you out of your comfort zone, to test you, to give you something more, and to hopefully help and aid that development. But yeah, it's a very short question answered very long way. I think that development is a huge part of what we do, but we're just not able to implement in the US system as it stands at the minute.
Right, yeah, no, absolutely. And sort of going back to ICONZ, kind of touching on that, I love the fact that you have created that environment where kids can come in, and you always sort of say, it is club independent, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter, where you're from. If you sort of make the roster, you come, you play, you compete, you get that good experience. So what led you sort of backtracking a little bit? What sort of gave you the idea to create ICONZ? Like, what was the driving force that made you want to do that?
2 things. One's going to sound really disrespectful, and I don't mean it to be, but I had spent 3 or 4 years in the States and have never been involved in youth soccer, and I just couldn't see myself doing it. The clubs, obviously, parents' involvement. It was just something that, I think you've seen me. I love to integrate, and I'm very open with parents and always available and all that stuff. But I didn't want to get into the politics of youth soccer, and that worried me. So I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to do something that I generally cared about. As we've just alluded to, I'm still a 21-year-old boy in my head, that thinks I can still go on a field and, and play professionally. But it excites me to be able to put a program together where we can say, right, we don't care about anything else. It's, there's a million better places that players can be on a Sunday evening, which means there's 100 million better places that parents can be on a Sunday evening.
Right.
So for those players come to us on a Sunday evening and know that they're going to work hard, they're going to run. We don't reinvent the wheel. I always say this, you're never going to hear me say, come to us, we're the best coaches. We put on a really good session, but what we're really good at is creating an environment, I think. And then it comes down to the girls or the boys for their teams. They want to be there on a Sunday night, they want to compete against their peers, and they want to be better.
Right.
And that's what the program is for me. So that's what excited me, and that was something that I thought I would really like to do that in the States. I didn't see too many people doing it, and I thought I could really, it was something that I liked and could really make a difference in. And that was 4 years ago. And as I say, I would be running this, we're very fortunate. I think we have about 260 players currently, but I would be running this program with 12. That's what it means to me to do it. So it's never going to be a numbers game, but it's really important to me that we keep the quality and and it's not going to be for everyone. I'm not silly. I'm naturally a people pleaser, so I want. Oh, what do you mean they don't enjoy? So people, it's a bit of a cauldron when you come there on a Sunday night. It is. We create sink or swim. One example is that we had a female player come to us and she did really, really well. She signed up. She didn't show up for 3 months. I was like, is everything okay? We're not that organisation of where are you, but wanted to check in. And she said, we love it, but my daughter gets so nervous coming to compete against some of these girls. And I'd never really seen it like that before. So it's really important that we understand what it is, what it's not, and that we're there to help. So we had to work with her off the field to hey, you belong here. Yeah. You enjoy it. You make a mistake. I say the same thing all the time. Don't worry about mistakes. Right. Worry about reactions. That's it. So yeah.
Awesome, amazing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Brookhouse. So we know the sister school, Brookhouse College, has been operating in the UK and worldwide for over 50 years, with former players now playing at many in many of the top leagues of the world. Right. So Brookhouse has 2 campuses, right, in Florida.
Yep.
Maitland and also Jacksonville. Right. So talk to us a little bit about Brookhouse, like about that brainchild.
So. Giles Williams is the owner of Brookhouse in the UK. I worked for them for 10 years as a consultant after I finished playing. Went to some amazing countries. I mean, I've been all over the world with them. Went to some unbelievable experiences that I would probably never do again. I went to Nigeria, believe it or not. We went to Nigeria, Port Harcourt, the kidnap capital of the world. And we had armed guard. We did a session. 4 of us did a session for 2 hours with about 150 kids. We had an armed guard on each of the 4 corners of the field. It was like experiences that I've never seen before. But countries, not just Nigeria, but as an example, they've got some amazing players. So I saw these players come over and saw the impact that they can make in the UK game. So for me, I've always been passionate about education. So when I finished actually playing soccer professionally, I went to work for Nottingham Forest as a community manager, working in schools, etc. And so I really wanted to look at, hey, there's people doing it in the States. If we're doing it, as with everything we do, I don't want to just do it for the sake of it. I want to have a point of difference. I want to add value. And so I spoke to Giles. We understood that the US market was very different to the UK market, but we wanted to offer that pathway and connectivity with the UK as well. So our students do have the opportunity to come over twice a year to the UK. And what was fascinating for me was we had a number of players come for a showcase event in November 2024. And a lot of our players were put into Group 3, which is fine. In America, you can imagine being told you're in Group 3. a lot of people were like, what? I'm like the top player. I'm playing ECNL. Why am I in Group 3? And I had a couple of parents say, not nastily, a couple of parents come up to me and say, why is, you know, don't mind me asking, why is my son here? I said, just see how it plays out day one. We're guests, you know, in this partnership. And anyway, they saw the level of the Group 1 and Group 2, and on the same day, 2 parents came up to me and said, thanks so much. Like, that was, it was really fascinating to me. They actually watched the players after their session, but even during it, the families were watching the Group 1 and Group 2 over Group 3, first of all, because they were like the level, you know, to put Group 1 into context, there was, I think, 4 players that had full international caps for their country. You know, Nigerian goalkeeper, 6'7", 18 years old, 2 caps for Nigeria, so for the men's national team. So that was the kind of level, and they loved it. And that was like, I got more out of that trip than I think the players did, than anything. I want them to see, hey, I feel like we're in a bit of a bubble in Florida, and I kind of like want to rip that next level open for them. So say, hey, look, it doesn't stop here because we're playing here. They're still here and here. You know, we can still keep going, and that was great. I think they came up with the bit between their teeth and really enjoyed it, and were excited to you know, to come back and action it, and it gave them a bit of direction as well. Like, okay, if I do go to Europe, this is the level. This is what I'm dealing with. So it was good.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing. That's fascinating. So, and let's talk about Gathia. Gathia is exciting.
Yes.
Right? Gathia last year, so this will be our second year going with the 2010s. It was such a great experience for the girls. I mean, it was fun. It was exciting. It was just, it was like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. I mean, we just really.
I love Goffey. I know Goffey is a bit different. So everything we do, it costs money. I'm always conscious of it. So I'm the person, when we put it in the groups and there's more going on, I'm like, I don't want to put this in. It's more money grab. You know? So I'm always holding back. But Goffey is interesting because it was parent led. I had about 5 or 6 parents come up to me, and Tony, a guy that works with us, come up to me and said, hey, can we put this together? So I was like, if you guys want to do it, absolutely. For anything, we'd do that. And I'd heard about it, I'd never been. So we went 2 years ago, we took about 110 people and had a fantastic time. It was, really, really good. We were relatively competitive. So when we went back for year 2, I thought that I always set objectives. Quarterfinals, I think in a world event, amazing opportunity. But as you say, for the 2009 girls, 2010 girls to get to the final, both of them teams, and compete, and obviously London's team in particular, the 2010s, went to penalties and lost to Hammarby, the Swedish pro team, in a game that could have gone either way.
Right.
Just playing in front of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, playing on stadium fields. It was just an amazing, I was a very, very proud moment last year. Sorry, we got to the finals, and I knew that win, lose or draw, we always want to win.
Right.
We all do.
Right.
But when I stepped back from it, and that evening, it was quite an emotional kind of, like, wow, how far the girls have come, how they've competed, and I'm just so proud of them. And the boys as well. The boys is a lot broader in terms of many more teams, etc. So it's very competitive. But we took 7 teams last year, and honestly, probably one team slightly underperformed in a really tough group, but honestly, we were proud of them all. They were fantastic. But the girls, what an experience.
It was so fun. And like you said, it was emotional for the girls too, because you could see the cohesion increase over the course of the tournament and the bonding. And they were in it, and at the end, they were holding each other, and it was just really, it was a big deal for everybody. And the other thing I loved was the boys coming out to support. That was fun, right? When they were over in that corner and they had their flags, and it was really, it's sort of the entire club kind of showing up for each other, and that made it very, very special as well, even for the parents.
Yeah, no, I think that was a lot of people have said that to me as well. It's a really memorable kind of moments was the boys turning up for all the games.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the semi-final on the last day, and I genuinely think that was a huge part of us winning the game.
Absolutely.
The environment that they created.
Oh, for sure.
In support, and sometimes they were maybe just slightly in a grey area, but they made it so much fun, and not just that. One, I think the quarterfinals one we won on penalties, and the semi-finals that we won straight away, all go and celebrate with the boys and the other families. And it was just like, I remember the quarterfinals we won on penalties, and I just looked over at the end of it when they were all celebrating, and all of these families together. You know, we had, I don't even know how many people there last year, 150 people,
Right.
whatever it may be, and to see them all celebrating, jumping, and so happy,
Yeah.
it was like just a lovely moment.
Oh, it was
yeah.
wonderful. A lot of us had never met each other. I mean, even with the parents, the kids, same thing. And so I know now, like, you know, from that, like London keeps in touch with some of the kids that, you know, from
Yeah.
sort of that event, you know, boys and girls, you know, they follow each other on social media, you know, they
Yeah.
encourage each other even.
No, I love that.
Even now.
I think that's what it's all about,
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely. It's wonderful. So yeah. So as we wrap up, so tell me what's next for you, for ICONZ Experience, for Brookhouse. Just look into the future, like what things. I mean, you've done so many amazing things in your career, in your life, still doing amazing things for the game, which, like I said, we appreciate immensely, personally, and also just from everyone who has aspirations of going further in the game, who have girls who are looking to do that. But just sort of with you, like what kind of things are on the horizon for you?
I don't know. I think I'm the kind of thank you for your nice words, first of all. You know, I'm the same as everyone. As I said, you know, there's no special power. I try to do my best. I get it right sometimes. I get it wrong sometimes. You know, that's really important to say that. But I'm the kind of individual, I don't like to stand still. My wife, it frustrates my wife. You know, I'm like, just switch off and all that.
Right.
So I'm always thinking about what's next. I mean, for me, the Brookhouse side of things is really simple. You know, we will open up in 2 other markets with Tampa and Fort Lauderdale over the next 18 months, which will be good. So we'll kind of corner off that. Mm-hmm. So I want to keep growing the international connectivity with that. We have a meeting today with a university which is looking to link our students from 16 plus then to Germany, Spain, France, so that we can have in particular a female player pathway, which will you know, connect our program together, which would be lovely, and give them again other experiences on a longer term outside of the country. So you know, to see other soccer and experience it. I think with ICONZ, I don't know. I love it. You know, I'm only on the field. You know, I love the business side of things. I don't want, maybe because I'm getting old and my knee and all that. I don't want to be on the field 5 nights a week. But Sunday nights when we're on the field, I love it. You know, I enjoy it. You get I think when you see a reaction from a group, mm-hmm. it doesn't matter what it is. You love it, and that's what, you know, I thrive off that. So that excites me. So, you know, ICONZ will continue to hopefully, you know, do what we do. It's not about taking over the world. I don't think we will necessarily expand it elsewhere. You know, we're in all 4 corners of the Florida market, and we just, for me, just keep on hopefully developing players, giving them opportunities, and you know, the 9s and 10s are exciting because they're a really strong group. So for me, the challenge then becomes, you know, how do we not stand still for that group? Right. You know, so for example, the only reason I bought USL, the franchise, was because the 9s and 10s girls. You know, I have no problem with them playing. You know, the 9s girls will probably go into that next year. Mm-hmm. I fully expect when everyone's having college players playing there, our 9s girls will be 8s and 9s girls will be the core of that team next year, and then the following year the 10s. Mm-hmm. So just want to keep offering them pathways and see them improving, and then, as I say, making sure that we don't hold on to them. That's the key, making sure when they're ready to fly, we're able to offer them pathways, opportunities elsewhere, and they find the right one for them. So that's a challenge, isn't it? That's why we all do it.
But it's beautiful, you having that vision and having that goal. Like you said, to help the girls, the kids in general, all of them, boys and girls, just have the opportunities to sort of develop that love like you had when you were younger, and that you still have, obviously, and then sort of the opportunities that can follow if they're willing to work hard and really pursue their dreams. I think it's really, that just speaks volumes. So thank you once again for all that you do. So as we really wrap up, we always ask our guests to end with 3 tips for parents of girls who have desires to play at the highest levels, to go further. So what are 3 things that you would recommend for parents?
I mean, straight away, for parents,
for parents of girls, parents and players, I think.
I think it's important that parents don't worry about rejection, because I think I've faced it a million times. We've all faced it in our professional lives as well. I think that if somebody tells you, I think it's okay to not be there right today. You know, but it is important that we start to bridge the gap. So I think that if my first piece of advice to parents would be, don't worry about not being ECNL today. You know, over that, if we've got a 2010 female player at the minute, over the next 2 years, can we close that gap to make sure we're doing what we do, rather than, as you alluded to earlier, rather than buying a spot, playing 10 minutes in a game, because we're not gonna get as much out of that. Do you mean there's a time when that does count, but at the minute, players should be, you know, playing as much as possible, enjoying it, and having a love for the game, and so that's important. And I can't think of anything worse than driving to Atlanta and not playing, or playing 6 minutes or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So, so that would be my first piece of advice. I think the second piece of advice would be that stay humble. Like, keep the players humble. I think that we all see top players at the moment that are excelling, and you know, we've got lots of them here. You know, and I hope that what I love about our top players here is there's no egos. You know, in a game that is full of egos, there's no real egos here, and I love that, because I think it's really important. Because you know, there's a story, isn't there, about be careful when you're on your way up, be careful how you treat people, because when you're on your way down, people won't forget it. And I'm a firm believer in that, because there's not a coach in the world probably that won't say, hey, what they're like as a player, but most importantly, what they're like as a person. And you know, people might think that that's not true, but I can guarantee it is. You know, we will all, as coaches, take, you know, a good player with a great attitude rather than a great player with a poor attitude. So stay humble, and then just keep believing. You know, it's very similar to the first point, but don't force it. You know, there are going to be opportunities. It's just about taking the right opportunities at the right time. And I think it's important that parents do their research. You know, we spoke about it earlier, that, you know, keep believing that your daughter is going to have the opportunity to go there, but do your research. Don't get taken just for a money thing. There's lots of good people out there. There is, and understand that there's lots of people that do want to. For every coach that's in it for the wrong reason, there's a coach that's in it for the right reason, and you know, it's about finding the right person that you believe in, that your player believes in, and can hopefully help you. And it's not just a financial thing of you're on our team. It is somebody who's on the end of a phone saying, right, this is what you can do to get better. It's not a negative, you know, it's a constructive criticism. And so I think if you surround yourself with good people, it's a real, you know, a real bonus in this very political environment.
Right, wonderful.
I think there's about 5 points there.
You
anyway,
know what?
yeah.
We'll take them all. We'll take them all. Coach Lawrie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.